New Hampshire was once again at the epicenter of presidential politics. Yesterday, Hillary Clinton appeared with Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren to build enthusiasm in a battleground state and to try to flip a Senate seat into the Democratic column. The race between Republican Kelly Ayotte, the incumbent, and Democrat Maggie Hassan, the current governor, has gone back and forth in the polls.
What I love about Maggie is that she's independent. She knows how to find common ground and how to stand her ground. And that is exactly the kind of leader we need in the United States Senate.
Ayotte has faced a barrage of attacks trying to capitalize on her shifting stances in regards to Trump's candidacy. She went from saying she would vote for the party's nominee but not formally endorse him to saying she now plans to write in Mike Pence's name. The big question in the race is if Clinton now has the momentum to win and get a majority in the Senate, the chamber which handles Supreme Court nomination. That would take a minimum of 5 seats flipping. Trump is now pleading with voters to support Republican congressional candidates.
If you elect me along with the Republican House and Senate, we will also immediately repeal the Obama-Clinton defense sequester and rebuild our badly depleted military. With the Republican House and Senate, we will immediately repeal and replace the disaster known as Obamacare.
Part of yesterday's playbook was to take advantage of the gender gap and fire women up over one of Trump's comments during the last debate.
Get this, Donald. Nasty women are tough. Nasty women are smart. And nasty women vote. And on November 8th, we nasty women are going to march our nasty feet to cast our nasty votes to get you out of our lives forever.
How does she really feel? For more on the role New Hampshire will play in the presidential race and the balance of power on Capitol Hill are Fergus Cullen, former chair of the New Hampshire Republican Party. Fergus, it's good to see you. And former Democratic congressman and ambassador to Denmark, Richard Sweat. Dick, it's good to see you, too. So Clinton has a comfortable lead. In fact, she's led in every poll in New Hampshire, I think, since practically forever. So she's obviously there to flip Ayotte to Hassan. You agree with that, both of you, right? I mean, the presidential race is determined in New Hampshire.
No, and I think the ground game is overwhelmingly Democratic. She's got 1,000 people on the streets. We've got 27 offices. I don't think they've got 9 offices on the other side. So we've got the army that's working.
You're not a Trump fan, we know that. But no. Trump, that's over, the presidential ticket.
Oh, I think, yes, Hillary Clinton is going to carry New Hampshire.
So what is going to matter in this race? I have to say, my typical anti-Nostradamus position, I'm wrong on virtually everything. When she in that debate said that Trump was a role model, then 3 hours later he wasn't a role model, and then this Pence thing, she's not going to vote for him after Access Hollywood, I figured she was cooked. But essentially, it's a dead heat, isn't it?
It is. And look, Kelly Ayotte has done as good a job, I think, as a Republican could do this cycle to keep herself separated from Donald Trump. There are no photos of Kelly Ayotte with Donald Trump together. That's not an accident. She's never appeared with him, never attended any of his events. I don't think voters are under any misimpression that she really is strongly for him.
But is the negative impact of him trickling down on her despite that separation? Is she suffering because of Trump's candidacy?
Well, there is going to be certain innocent bystanders who are going to be caught up in the blast zone of Trump. I mean, Trump's going to struggle to hit.
Collateral damage.
Yeah. Is she collateral damage?
Well, I think any Republican will be. I mean, that's what they're contending with. Otherwise, they would be running with him. You know, Jim, this looks like the Democratic Party looked back in 1990 when I ran for Congress, and I had to overcome an entire ticket. I was the only Democrat that won when Republicans were riding the tidal waves into office. This is just the opposite. And I think that someone like Ayotte, I mean, if you look at her ads, they're all about bipartisanship. It's all about working with everybody. It's all about the things that I was doing as a Democrat back then.
Maggie Hassan's saying the same thing, by the way. The last couple of days, she's gone out of her way to say she's going to work with the Republicans.
We need to be saying these things anyway. But I've never heard it to this extent, except for when I was running for office. And I think that's really significant.
You know, speaking of you as being the Democratic outlier, one of the key issues for who determines Congress is how much ticket splitting goes on here. In the 70s, I read this morning, roughly 30% of the ballots split tickets, meaning, for those who don't know, you vote for a Democrat or Republican at the top, other party below. In 2012, only 10%, 11% split tickets. Are we going to keep at that low number, or does the Trump factor make this an aberrational year?
I don't know. The country has always had a tendency to split the tickets, particularly from the White House to the Congress.
And New Hampshire is a contrary kind of place, yes?
So it could happen. I was talking with Cullen beforehand, and he actually has a more pessimistic point of view about that. I'm very concerned, and I think the Democrats really have to work hard to make this a straight ticket all the way down.
Did he just out you from your private conversation, or did he not?
Well, look, I'm trying to be objective and realistic, and there is very little ticket splitting that goes on. In New Hampshire, we've had 5 consecutive wave elections where one side wins everything or one side loses everything. It's not like Passover where there's blood on the door saying this is the Republican who should be spared. The angel of death goes through and kills them all, and I'm afraid we're in that kind of
one
election.
of the things I'm so confused about is whether or not people, when they hear ads, there was an ad that came out this weekend from some pro-Republican PAC saying, regardless of who wins the White House, otherwise known as Trump's not going to win the White House, so make sure you keep Republicans in Congress. Do voters ever do that, say, maybe I'm not crazy about Kelly Ayotte, it's a split for me, but if Hillary Clinton's going to win, I do want some check and balance. Do voters actually do that kind of mind thing?
I think so, and I think this is an opportunity for Kelly Ayotte in these closing 2 weeks. When they think that the presidential race is settled, they can look at the down-ballot races on their own merits, and that's going to be good for Kelly Ayotte.
Do people do that, or just the pundits? I hate the word pundit. I know I use it. Do people like me talk about that kind of thing, or do voters actually make that calculation?
No, I think the big difference is, though, this time around, there's such an army of Democrats that are out there that are getting people out to vote, that are knocking on doors. I mean, there is an overwhelming presence of people that are actually making those arguments, and that, I think, is going to have an impact on this race. If you left all things to themselves, maybe that would be the case. I think the country tends to look at elections that way. But I think, this national army Hillary has raised $1 billion to pay for all of these people that are all over the place. As I said, 27 offices versus 9 in New Hampshire. That's an overwhelming army that is going to be tough to contend with.
Billion here, billion there, the old line.
Yeah.
You're talking real money.
And Trump is a turnout machine as well for Democratic constituencies, women voters, minority voters. I'm a Republican, and I'm hoping Republicans are going to win, but he has a way of alienating exactly the kinds of voters Republicans need to win in order to get to 50%.
Let me broach some potentially good news for your Senate candidate.
Thank you. Some.
About a nanosecond after the report came out, and we're going to talk about this later in the show as well, about premium increases of dramatic proportions for some people, at least, on the Affordable Care Act. Here's a piece of an ad that came out of the Ayotte camp. Here it is.
Maggie Hassan can't stand up to her party. She supports the broken health care law that even Bill Clinton called
the craziest thing in the world.
Does this help her? I read stories in the Globe, 6-8 months ago, that because of the Affordable Care Act, some people were having to travel long distances in New Hampshire to get care and that sort of thing. Is this going to resonate? I thought this was a non-issue in the campaign until yesterday.
Well, look, I think that we have litigated this in politics and elections for several election cycles in a row. People have pretty much made up their mind. But the Republican health care plan can't be don't get hurt, don't get sick, don't get old. It has to be repeal and replace with something better. And I think Kelly Ayotte's been one of the problem solvers in Congress who actually is trying to get things done.
Do we have any idea what issue to replace
like
it with,
immigration?
unlike Trump, by the way?
The difference in this is that you've got 2 candidates who say that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. And whether you eliminate the whole thing and replace it or you fix what's broken, it's very hard to get real excited about that kind of a discussion.
But do you think
if
people
one was
make
saying,
that kind of
this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and the other one is saying, no, throw it out, then you've got an argument.
But don't you think there's more of an emotional reaction? When you see on your television screen tonight 116% increase in Arizona,
well, it's 22% in reality.
Average, yes.
Yeah, and
before subsidies.
This is not going to be left alone. This will have to be fixed, and that's going to be one of Hillary's very first challenges. Is she's got to show that she heard the people speak on that, and she will do that.
But is it going to hurt her in the next 2 weeks?
No, I don't think so, because I think she's already on the same side.
Before you two go, is New Hampshire today a red state, a blue state, or a purple state? Since 1992, the only Republican running for president, I think, was George Bush in 2000, who won. What is it in 2016, Dick?
I would say purple.
How about you?
Well, I think it's going to lean blue.
It's going to go blue this election, but it's purple because, as Colin said earlier, if the wind blows red, it goes in that direction. If the wind blows blue, it goes in that direction. This is a blue year, but we've got Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. We've got Democrats and Republicans in the Congress. So we represent both parties.
Are you going to make it through the election okay?
Like a lot of people, I'm looking forward to being done.
Fergus, good to see you.
Thanks, Jim.
Dick, thanks so much.
Yep.
Great to see you.
Thank you, Jim.
Appreciate your time.